afternoon. Going into this game, obviously it was a difficult loss to take at the weekend. How has the mood been in the squad? Have you picked everyone up after that?
Well, obviously Tuesday was not the happiest day. I think there was a lot of frustration and disappointment in the squad, including obviously me. But we need to now face what we have in front of us, and that is the league games, and that's the only thing we can control because we can't do anything about what has happened. So now we only focus on the league games that we have left.
Mhm. The game against Dundee United, a hefty goal tally and a good result could see Celtic go to the top of the table on goal difference and points. Do you think about that going into a game like this, about how many goals you can score?
Obviously, we know that both Glasgow City and Rangers are ahead of us when it comes to the goal difference, and that's something that we are aware of. Yes, and that's something obviously that we always try to get into situation in the games that we want to score as many goals as possible. But the performance needs to be the most important thing that we focus on because that's the reason that we're going to score goals. And obviously we want to have a great reaction from the game against Glasgow City, and then obviously we want a great performance because next week we play against Glasgow City again. So we just want a great performance over 90 minutes, as good as possible.
This game's been moved to Tannadice. I would imagine that gives Celtic the advantage, and I wonder how you think you might best be able to capitalise on that advantage of playing on that bigger pitch.
If you talk about advantage playing on a bigger pitch or playing at Petershill, I think it all comes down to how we play football. I mean, against Glasgow City at Petershill, we created really good chances because of the style of play that we have, but we also need to execute. So I don't think we think too much about the pitch size. We want to play the style of play that we play, and obviously and hopefully we can move the ball fast and exploit their weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. We had the news this week that Amy Richardson has gone on loan to Partick Thistle. Can you give us a bit of background on that decision?
Well, right now we have 6 centre backs or 6 defenders when it looks and the shape that we're playing. So Amy Richardson is a young player that needs playing time. She needs game time, and that's something that we're looking at. I know that many fans are talking about not having centre halves or centre backs, but if you look at our best players so far with Emma Lawton and Celia Barclay, then I'm not worried about the centre halves. How we've been losing games lately against Rangers and Glasgow City has nothing to do with centre backs. It has to do with us not being switched on in situations where we get hurt, for example, set plays or errors that we do.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of how the squad's looking for tomorrow's game, is Amy Gaka back and is everyone fit that we might expect to be fit?
Amy G is or has been sick for a week now, so we'll see if she's in the squad. Lucy is unfortunately not in the squad this game. Bestine is not either in the squad this game because of injury. And I think that's the situation we're in right now.
I just wanted to ask you, obviously, today we heard Emma Lawton got announced in the Scotland squad for her first appearance. Just wondering your thoughts on that, and then also in general, you as a manager, is that something that you take pride in, to develop players to get them that international recognition?
Obviously, I found out yesterday that she was going to be in the squad, and obviously I had a chat with her after she also knew that she was going to be in the squad. And I remember this first meeting I had with Emma, and I said to her, as long as I can see you do good in training and as long as you're the player that I want you to be and progress, then I know that you're going to have a good time here at Celtic, because she is a fearless and hungry player that gives everything she can to be the best she can be. So Emma is there because of Emma's mindset and Emma's mentality. I'm here to guide and support her, but everything that Emma has done she's done by herself, and I'm really proud of her. And I think all Celtic fans and all the people around can see how brilliant she is. So obviously I'm very happy and very proud of her, and I think she really deserves the spot.
Yeah, thanks. And I also just want to ask you, in terms of all the transfer activity that's been over the past month, do you feel that you've got a stronger squad now than you did at the start of the month?
I think there's obviously Abby coming in. I think that will give Saoirse good competition, and I think Abby is a great player, and I think she just needs to grow in confidence and understanding the role that she's going to have at Celtic. Momo is doing really good training, so I'm really excited to see her being in the squad for tomorrow. She's a very technical and aggressive player to be the small size that she is, but she is an incredible player. A winning mentality as well. Like, she wants to push hard on training, and she wants to, be the best she can be as well. So that's the kind of player that I always try to see. And Emma Westin, I think, obviously her coming into Celtic when it's pre-season time in Sweden, I think she needs some time to get into the intensity and all the football, and that's something I'm really looking forward to. But if I think that our squad is stronger, yes, I do believe that. And I think, like I've said before, like the frustration of us losing against the top teams has been something that we need to fix, because it's not a great feeling to lose the way we've been losing against the top teams. So hopefully we can, get ready for Dundee and have a great performance, and then be ready for Glasgow City on Friday next week as well.
Yeah, also you mentioned earlier on about kind of centre backs and how you don't see that as being necessarily the problem, but I just want to get your thoughts, obviously, because a lot of fans from the outside are looking and see players like Luana and Bruna who are seen as more natural centre halves, but then you'll choose to play Lawton and Barkley. I just wondered what you're kind of seeing from Lawton and Barkley, and with your style, that you prefer them in that kind of more central role than players who maybe would naturally, you would assume, would fit there.
Well, if you look at how we played 4-3-3 and how we play with a 3-2-4-1, they have similar positions because they were introverted fullbacks when they played in a 4. And that's exactly the same position as they have now. And Bruna and Luana, they're doing really good in training, but I can't change Emma and Cici, who's been doing amazing. Cici has been our MVP the last 2-3 games, so I'm not going to change that. I do think that the opinions that all the other people are talking about is opinions because they don't see football the same style as I and as us. Because if you look at the goals that we conceded, it has nothing to do about centre backs. Nothing. It has to do with set plays. It has nothing to do with how we play football. And if we look at offensively what they bring us, they are a big part of how we create chances, and they are a big part of how to defend situations. And I understand the frustration. Like I said before, I was about to bring in a centre back, but it went how it went, and I can't control that, and I need to control and focus on the players that I do have.
And yeah, just about last question about, obviously, Claire mentioned the game being at Tannadice. I just kind of wondered your thoughts in general around about these kind of like big occasion games at the kind of main stadiums. Do you see that as being a smart thing in terms of growing the game?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's something that makes me frustrated sometimes, is the growth in women's football in Scotland. I think we're far behind of looking at how it is in Sweden or England or anywhere else, to be honest. And I wish that SFA or whoever is responsible for women's football in Scotland should, be more open to grow the women's football in Scotland. Because, I mean, if you look at us competing in Champions League, like I've said before, I think if you look at the top teams, my both captains are part-time. They're not here every day. That is the struggle that I have in Celtic. And we had that squad competing in Champions League. So it just needs to be more investment for us to push forward. And that's something that I'm looking forward to see, because playing in the big arenas hopefully bring in more people and can see that women's football is not that bad after all. And that needs to combine, like getting all fans together and support women's and men's team. And I think if you look at Hammarby, where I played before, and look at the fan base there and how it looks there and how the club is one club, they don't look at women's football and men's football. Everybody supports each other. That's where we need to go at. That's where we need to be at, and hopefully we'll get there soon enough.
Just in terms of the fact that both of your captains aren't on full-time contracts, is that something that the club could help you with?
Yeah, that's something I've been talking to the club with and about, and that's something that hopefully I'll get more help for that for next season.
Just in terms of the investment, does some of that have to actually come from Celtic? Maybe not apportioning funds to the men's team and funds to the women's team, that maybe you need to be in a position to say, if we really want to grow it and we want to compete at Champions League level, then there has to be greater investment that comes from Celtic.
Yeah, and listen, I've been talking about this with the club, and I think if you look at where Celtic came from, I mean, we didn't even have a full-time goalkeeper coach, and now I have one. I didn't have a first team coach that was full-time, and now I have one. And then now we're gonna get a new physio that is gonna be full-time as well. So I mean, there is things that are happening behind the scenes, but I do believe that we need more investment for the squad as well. And what I know is that we don't have the biggest budget when it comes to players, and that's something that we need to try to, obviously, step by step, try to increase and make it more, how do you say, like more, not fair, but more like same like Rangers and Glasgow City, if I can say it like that.
Do you feel as though your hand is strengthened with the fact that you were in the Champions League this season, that you can go back maybe at the end of the season and say, look, this is what we can achieve, you know, this is a stage that we can get on, and this is how to grow it? Because if you have repeated exposure to elite level football and Champions League group stages the last 16, then you can say, well, this is a way that you have to grow the game.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why, like when you look at my conversation with Michael and the board, I know that they support me and they believe in the same strategy and project like we have together. And that's what I've said. Like I think that's why it takes a bit of time, because there is things that are getting better when you look at, you know, like I said, like we're getting a better staff. We're getting when I say better staff, I mean like the structure. We're getting bigger. It's not only me now or David that is, like we have a more structure within the staff, but then the next step is to bring more leaders and experienced players into Celtic. But to do that, we also need higher budget when it comes to recruit players that has that experience or the leadership and that grow, like just that kind of players that we don't maybe have afford with today.
Hello, I just wanted to ask, I imagine you would love to win the league at a canter, but having a kind of 4-horse or even 5, if you count Hearts, title race, it must be a good thing for that kind of league development that you're talking about in Scotland.
Yeah, and I think that's something that if you look at, I think our budget is probably not much bigger than Hearts and Hibs, to be honest, which is also the reason maybe why it's getting like closer and closer, because the investment is just getting higher and higher. And I think that's something that we need to look at as a club as well, is like how do we want to invest and how do we want to grow in the women's football, because I'm not sure that Celtic has the highest budget in the women's side, but that's something that we're increasing, and that's something that we need to look at for the next part of the season, is how we're going to grow and how we're going to make sure that we have the right investment to be more dominant, because I don't think it's that only the case. Like I think that I have an amazing squad right now. If you look at, you know, we're top joint with Glasgow City. They have a better goal difference than us, but we also played Champions League with the squad that we have, and we've been competing really well. So I'm not saying that we've done bad. I'm just saying that to take the next steps and to be more competitive in Europe, we need to have a strategy of how to do it.
Are there any plans to discuss this strategy that you're talking about
Yes,
with the
I
club?
have
Is that
a
something that's positive?
close relationship with Michael. He's always around when I need to talk to him, and same thing with the board. So I'm not worried about that. It just right now maybe the focus has been winning the games that we have in front of us, then looking ahead of the next season, because like I said before, I can only control what's happening now. But I mean, after Glasgow City, we have an international break, so I'll take my time to talk with Michael and the board then and try to discuss of what is the next step for Celtic Women.
Just one more question from me. You mentioned after the game against Queen's Park, and you discussed it here, it's style of play, like an attacking style of play, and even the way you see football. How do you feel, or how close do you feel this Celtic squad is to your vision of how football should be played?
If you look at the chances we created against Glasgow City first half, we should have scored 4 goals. And that is just reality. And if I look at the games we played against Glasgow City before, we didn't create as many chances, but we executed it well with the chances that we had. And I think that is something that you can see is, and the other side, if you look at the game of the chances Glasgow City and the goals they scored, it's very rare that, or it's not very often that they actually break us. It comes from our mistakes or set plays, which is also a big part of the game. I'm not going to take that away. But I do believe that how we play football has been a very hard thing for our opponents to exactly know, like how to defend against us, because we can score in very different ways, and that's why we have, I think, 21 different goal scorers, which is a good thing. But the execution needs to be better, and that's something we need to work on, and that's something that we've been working on in training as well. So hopefully that's something that we need to improve. But in the same time, I said to the players, I think we've had 23 sessions since August that we've had full trainings without focusing on recovery or -1. 23 since August. That is 1.5 months for most of the teams that we've faced in the league. So we haven't reached our full potential yet, but I am very, very confident in the players that I have and the style of play, that when we get things right, hopefully soon enough, we're going to be winning more games.